All right. So let's get this rolling here. Let me get some final things set up before we actually start. Um, because do it this way, then people will be, if anybody's going to stop by, it'll give them a little bit of chance. So I'm going to get some little scroll things going here. Here's our Waylon. Stand By Me soundtrack. Our Law Dispute. And our circle takes the square. All right. So what we're going to do is start off talking about the 45. Now I brought the records down here to kind of show what they look like, but um, I didn't bring the 45 down, and I didn't bring the soundtrack for Stand By Me down because they were just plain black vinyl. So there really wasn't much to show for it. So I didn't figure it was worth the effort of displaying it up. But man, it was a good time, like going through and listening to these start to finish with like the full intention of paying full attention to it. And with my attention span, it's hard to do stuff like that sometimes. Plus, with work and with day to day responsibilities, things like that, it's like you got to really know how to be responsible for your time and make sure that you're making the best use of your time. So it's kind of hard. And that's one thing that sucks about vinyl is it's kind of a process to like be able to sit down and listen to it. You know, you got to make sure you're in the right place in the house where your record player is. You got to make sure you have the time to put down what you're doing and go flip the record to side B, things like that. Like that's why streaming is so convenient. But I didn't want to stream. I wanted to actually take the time to listen to these records that I've spent money on and that are sitting in my collection and make sure I'm getting the right use out of them, you know? Most of my collection is stuff that I bought for myself, obviously. I started buying vinyl when I worked at Hot Topic, so I have some of the Hot Topic exclusives and things like that. One of which I had the Big Dirty by Every Time I Die on vinyl, and I recently sold it. I have a Macari page. It's available on my link tree. I don't really know how to share that right now, but I do have a link tree. Uh, Anthony, you just want to watch me talk about vinyls. Um, but yeah, my Discog is on my link tree, as well as my Macari. So if you're looking for anything, I don't know. If you want to buy something from my Macari, hit me up and let me know in advance, and I'll probably take a low ball offer on it if it's somebody I know. But yeah, so a lot of the older stuff I have, I've picked up at random shops along the way. I got a lot of old vinyl from my grandma that it was sitting in her basement and she wanted to get rid of it. So I took a bunch of that and then stuff, like I said, that I picked up along the way. I like to think I have pretty wide taste in music. So while I'll have some stuff like the heavier side of things, I'll also have like the country side of things. So like today, we're going to talk about Waylon Jennings. We're going to talk about the Stand By Me soundtrack. We're going to talk about Law Dispute. We're going to talk about Circle Takes a Square. And each of those albums are very, very different from one to the other. Starting with Waylon, I mean, Waylon Jennings is country music like hero. Like he was really the pioneer of the outlaw country music movement. He was born in 1937. He died in 2002, and he was my grandma's favorite musician. Like she would go everywhere and see him. Like she has pictures hanging out with him, like stuff like that. I think they had a special friendship. But with the country music shows and festivals and stuff she would go to, a lot of those artists were very open about being that close to fans and having that one-on-one with fans. And I respect that. You know, you get that sometimes with some of the newer music, but there's also a lot more ego involved in music these days. Uh, so yeah, Waylon, He sang a lot of like the rebel country. Like what he was really known for was being the balladeer and the theme song for Dukes of Hazzard. Just the good old boys. Like that's Waylon. And when it comes to his career, the songs he really learned about the most or heard the most were more of the gritty, um, look what a badass I am kind of songs. But he had a lot of ballads too. So the 45 that was selected was, see if I can do this here. Yeah, so Waylon Jennings, Yours Love, and Six Strings Away. This is supposed to be, there we go. There we go. So Waylon Jennings, Yours Love, Six Strings Away, A B side 45. Yours Love was a country music song that was written by Harlan Derry Howard. He was a well-known country music songwriter and performer. He wrote he wrote the song "I Fall to Pieces." That is a very classic song. A lot of people know. I don't know how many people have sang it, but the weird thing with country is how much songs were shared from one artist to the other and how it wasn't frowned upon um, anymore. I mean, Ed Sheeran's just getting out of that lawsuit where they think that he stole music from Marvin Gaye. I guess it was found that he did not steal the music, but it's a big ordeal. Patsy Cline sang "I Fall to Pieces." That was like the biggest name that sang that song, I believe. But back in the day, like singers, songwriters, like they would just redo each other's shit left and right. So this was a Carl Perkins 45. Carl Perkins is very well known in the industry. He is the one who really did a lot of the recordings in the Nashville session or the Memphis sessions. Johnny Cash, Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Waylon Jennings, like all those guys. And with side A, Yours Love, it was a very like straightforward ballad. It was very much um, I'm yours, love, and I will provide whatever I can for you. I want to make sure that this lasts, light tempo, and everything that he does is for the one that he loves. So you're not getting that Dukes of Hazzard theme. You're not getting I've always been crazy. You're just getting this straightforward love song, basically. From there, you flip it over to side B, and that's where you get more of an upbeat song about like questioning a woman and will she stay by his side? Is she going to be faithful? All of that kind of stuff. And that's the song Six Strings Away. So that was one that he wrote himself. He ended up having a box set later on that was named after that song. But Six Strings Away is really his questioning of faithfulness. And I think that for someone in the music industry, faithfulness is something that you have to question a lot of the time. With the fans and my grandma running around, you never know what you'll get yourself into. Um, so from here, the next album that was selected was Stand By Me, right? So the Stand By Me soundtrack. Now, the cool thing is, I'm not going to be able to do this very often, but with the Stand By Me soundtrack, it kicks things off with Buddy Holly. See if this is going to work. Perfect. So it kicks things off with Buddy Holly going into Everyday. Buddy Holly heard Waylon early on in Waylon's career and was like, I want to help him out. So he hired Waylon to be his touring bassist. Now, Waylon had like dropped out of school. He moved to some country town, was hosting radio and stuff. That's when he kind of got to know who Buddy Holly was. Buddy Holly hired him on to be his bassist. They hit the road together, and Waylon was actually supposed to be on that plane that crashed with Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and those other legends on board. He gave up his seat to the Big Bopper and had to live with that for the rest of his life. That was like one of the things that haunted him. Like in interviews left and right, people always hounded him about like, how do you feel knowing you were supposed to be on that plane, knowing you should have died along with them? And clearly it bugged the guy. One of the first cassettes I remember getting was Waylon Jennings singing these songs to his son Shooter Jennings. And it was just these fun, like country cowboy songs that he sang for kids. It was adorable. It was great. But anyway, so Stand By Me soundtrack, Spooky Hollows, Colin Buddy. Yes, that is an amazing soundtrack. It is so, so good. And it's cool that it kicks off with that song because it ties that 45 we selected into this album. With Stand By Me being one of my absolute favorite movies, I absolutely love that movie. The great thing about the soundtrack is as you're listening to it, you start to remember where in the movie it happened. Now, I haven't watched it in too long, unfortunately, so I couldn't remember every scene and how it tied to the song, but those songs were like the radio hits of Stand By Me when that happened, when those boys were like, we're going to go see a dead body. So you have that Every Day by Buddy Holly with the nice little xylophone solo in there, with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And then that was originally on the album True Love Ways from 1957. The Stand By Me movie was filmed it was based in 1959, I believe, set in 1959. The Jerry O'Connell's debut, you had Will Wheaton, you had River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, amazing cast. And the way that they pulled that movie off was excellent, but the soundtrack played into it so much. Every Day, Let the Good Times Roll by Shirley and Lee from 1956. It was on the Presenting Shirley and Lee album. It was also an Apocalypse Now, so that ties into that soundtrack. Come Go With Me by the Del Vikings. That was the one that had the dum 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 de doobie dum 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 dum. Like a lot of like vocal things like that in this album that were really a sign of the times. Like you don't really get too much of that now. City and Color does it a lot, but in those times, it was a different kind of background music to add to really catch the attention of the listener. Whispering Bells, also by the Del Vikings. Get a Job by the Silhouettes. That was all on side A. You flip it over to side B, you got Lollipop by the Shondettes, which is the railroad track scene. Like they're headed to see the body and they're going down the tracks together and they're doing like the pop, boom, boom, boom. It just, as the boys are bonding together, and then you get Ace Merrill and his crew with more of the edgy kind of rock songs with Yakety Yak. I think that was when they were like playing chicken as they were driving out the road, and Ace is driving and he's got his toothpick in his mouth. He's like, I won. And then Great Balls of Fire by Jerry Lee Lewis. Pretty sure that was when they were playing Mailbox Baseball. The interesting thing with Jerry Lee Lewis is like he died fairly recently, and I feel like it wasn't a big talking point. Like he just disappeared, and he did have a very sketchy history. I think like with the cancel culture and the Me Too movement and everything, we're gonna start hearing that more and more and more about different acts that are legacy acts and very celebrated acts. So maybe that's why it was fairly quiet, is because of that dark history to it. But like with Aerosmith announcing their final tour, I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for people to start like attacking the history of the band. You're good, buddy. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you. People just attacking the integrity, not the integrity, that's a worse word for me to choose, but the history and the news of what they did and things like that. As more stuff comes out, more people are going to want to take a stand against that band. So we'll see how it plays out, but I feel like it's going to be very interesting in the next few years when these bigger name bands are getting called out left and right. Mr. Lee by the Bobettes. Stand By Me obviously is on the soundtrack. It closes it out. It closed the movie out. And there was even the music video for it with River Phoenix and Will Wheaton. And the music video is weird. It's a very strange video, but they're basically just like sitting in this like room of kids while Benny King performs for them. And you wouldn't know that it was tied to the movie or that they were tied to the movie until they start flashing clips from the movie in there a little bit. But it's a very weird music video. Will and River get up and they kind of dance with Benny King. This soundtrack, I feel like if it wasn't tied to the movie, I wouldn't really care as much about it. But these songs are so great, and it's really interesting to hear songs from that time frame with what we're used to today. Not the heavy screaming, not like the breakdowns and the hardcore music and the heavy rock, like just straightforward, fun, up tempo, nice beats to this music. And I appreciate that kind of stuff. So I definitely think it's worth listening to. And if you have kids, play it for them because the beat to it and just the fun, like vocal things that they do with it is really entertaining for kids. They love that shit. Coffee break. Oh, yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about. I'm going to talk about the one that I like the most out of all these. And that is this album right here. As the Roots Undo. I'll come over here and flip my banner. The reason I'm doing little banner things is because I know not a lot of people are going to want to see everything in here. So I want them to be able to kind of jump around the video when it goes live so they can find. Uh-oh. I apologize. You know the deal. Sickly Cujo. I want them to be able to find. This is going to be the worst part about doing lives is when I keep Cujo down here with me because the family's doing stuff and he has to cough in the background. Cujo is my dog. He's my best friend. I love him so much. I know it seems like I get frustrated with him a lot, but he has tracheal collapse and he coughs and he coughs and he coughs and he coughs. One of my things in life is the sound of someone coughing is like nails on a chalkboard to me. So it's very hard to hear. And it's even harder because there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do to help him. So if you hear him coughing in the background, I apologize. I know it sounds gross. I try to mute in time that you don't have to hear it, but there's not a lot I can do about it. And I love the dude. So he's going to be right here with me. Anyways, I digress. I apologize. I wish I could edit that out, but it's live. This is As the Roots Undo. It is by the band Circle Takes the Square. It is from 2004. The vinyl release came out in 2014 from Gatepost Recordings. The cool thing about this is I still have this sitting here, and it probably won't go anywhere. This is a pencil that says Circle Takes the Square. It was like a little gift that they sent when I ordered the record. Google it, you'll find it, I promise. But this is a fantastic album, and the album artwork and everything. If I start here, you'll see the name across the bottom there, As the Roots Undo. We got this gatefold cover. Got Circle Takes a Square. Start to see words over here. Oh boy. As the Roots Undo. Just like that. Isn't that fantastic? It has all the song lyrics, or not lyrics, but titles at the bottom of that gatefold. And then take it out of here. I'll just show you everything that came with the album, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so they sent a nice little thank you. This is from Kathy, who is the vocalist in Circle Takes the Square. And if I got her name wrong, I'm going to feel like a real butthole. I did not. Her name is Kathy. We're good. And a sticker. I think this is more the artwork or the album artwork for their next album. And then, like I said, the pencil. It came in this nice kind of translucent brown. Let's see where we're at here. Like marble, gold, flaky look here. It is a beautiful pressing. So there's that. There's that. It is a beautiful pressing, and it is a beautiful album. It's very artistic. This is the best way I can describe this album. Artistic. I'll read you this here because I found it interesting. Circle consists of Kathy, thunder, bass, and vocals, Jay, rain, drums, and sampler, and vocals, Drew lightning guitar vocals. We Are the Storm. All songs were written between 2001 and 3. In a nutshell, the concept behind these songs was to document the different points of a path of self-realization in our interpretation of this journey. The wandering ends up essentially in the same place that the wanderer ends up essentially in the same place that he or she began. If not humbled and even more overall of the lows, how can anyone ever appreciate the amazing subtleties that the world has to offer? And so, if the search for beauty and understanding is uh, cyclical and unending, and unending, then at least we'll never stop experiencing the thrills of the hunt. It's kind of small print. I apologize. But what that does is really set you up for, if you're going to go through and listen to the lyrics and understand what the album's all about, you're realizing it's telling you a story. This album is, man, it is so good. And it's so interesting how the storytelling and the music come together for it. Like it starts off with this really interesting intro with like this creepy whistling. I can't whistle, or I would whistle it for you. So that gives you like a little intro to it. And then it kicks into Same Shade as Concrete, which is just an epic song. The way the musician, the crescendos to it, how it gets heavy. It really starts off like this, like rejoice, and then just explodes into this musical journey. So the balance of the vocalists in this is really important. The way that you get these three individuals singing together is amazing. I saw them live once years ago in it was in a shopping plaza. There was a little venue, and it was called Fallen Eyes in Canton, Ohio. And it was just an amazing show. I drove from Marietta, Ohio, all the way up to catch that show, and they blew my mind. So you have Same Shade as Concrete, Noisy. They're like a music website. They called this one of the most critically acclaimed cult classics in modern hardcore. They're from Savannah, Georgia. They're a three-piece. We already talked about that. So it goes from Same Shade as Concrete into Crow Quill, with kicks off with this like kind of, I don't want to say, kind of like a creepy, smooth growl that really dives you into the song. It's very poetic. All of their songs are a lot of poetry to it, and the music just really drives everything along with it. In the Nervous Light, that you curse constantly, an internal path. It's slow and pretty. An eternal path, like a nice, smooth song. And then it just goes into this like shriek. All I ever asked for was a clean break. The way that Kathy does that shriek into it, it's captivating. Like it just grabs your attention as a listener. They call themselves a punk rock band with reverence for the mystery. And you just never knew what to expect with them. Every song complements each other, but every song is also unique. Interview at the Ruins. It's a story that ends on like this calm, chilling, a murmur as from the ruins. I'm trying to remember the right pace of it. A murmur as from the ruins that goes softly as the roots undo. And it just kind of keeps repeating and fades you out of the song. And it complements, again, the name of the album, as the roots undo. It's everything really syncs up to tell the full story. Non-objective portrait of karma, very music driven. Some of these songs get really long, like I'm talking 8.5, 10-minute long songs. Very music driven, but it's a calm before the storm. Like it calmly leads you to it and then just explodes. Scratch my back and I'll stab you in yours. Kill the switch, immediately chaos. Like as soon as that song kicks off, you're just like pulled right into it. They're so good at just building you and then leading you through the song as they tell the story. So the music and everything just fits. There's singing, like some of the stuff is kind of really back and forth, like yellow, 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 red, 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 knock, 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 like the way that the vocalists play off each other. It's a full group effort. Crater Coffin. So that brings us back to the slow start of the album where you have that music and kind of that creepy calm. And it just builds and builds and builds. Perfectly imperfect like a storm is one of the lines to it. And that's how I define this album. That is the way to define this album. Perfectly imperfect like a storm. Everything about it is just the thunder, the booming. Like when they called themselves the Thunder, the rain, the lightning. That's perfect because that is really the best way to describe this band. If you don't know who they are, you've got to check them out. You are missing out. Um, they, I don't know when the last time they did anything was, to be completely honest. Circle takes a square. Wikipedia. You guys have the internet at your fingertips. Okay, so I will tell you this. As Roots Undo was released in 2004. Decompositions Volume Number 1 was released in 2012. They had some EPs, some compilations. It doesn't go into detail on like breaking up or anything. And it says like their members are still active, but I don't really hear anything. Years active, 1999 to present, screamo, grindcore, post-hardcore, experimental rock. That's what Wikipedia says about them. So it says they're active, and I know that they're active on social media because when I posted initially that we were going to be doing this and that this was one of the albums we were going to do, they liked it, so that was cool. It's a great album. Listen to it. Give yourself time to sit down and listen to it. This of the ones we listened to, this was my number one. I really thought the Stand By Me soundtrack would be number one, but this bumped it out of the top spot and dropped it to number two. Which brings us to, make sure I get my notes all aligned here. Which brings us to an album that I know I was really looking forward to when it was announced. I pre-ordered it and I was just immediately disappointed. What we have here is La Dispute, Panorama. La Dispute is a great band. They're very talented. They're very good storytellers. And I think that's something I really appreciate in music is the ability to tell a story. The thing with this album that let me down was I make this joke a lot. Okay. I'll show you this here. Nice. Purple, translucent, transparent, whatever. I make this joke a lot about this band in particular that with each album of theirs that they drop, the vocals get quieter and quieter and quieter until the next album they do is going to be just instrumental. With their, make sure I say this right here. Somewhere at the bottom of the river between Vega and Altair. That apparently is getting a repress again soon. I feel like it just got one, but I guess it's getting a repress. That came out in 2008, and it was pretty upbeat. It was pretty steady, loud. Wildlife is my favorite album theirs by far. That album is amazing. The storytelling to it. It's, if you take the time to read those lyrics and really study them, it can give you tears. It can put tears in your eyes. I shit you not. Rooms of the House was pretty solid, and then Panorama. But literally with each of these albums, it's like it gets quieter and quieter. So Panorama, let's get this little ticker flipped over here. With it's interesting to me. With Circle Takes a Square, it was 8 songs. It was 44 minutes. Panorama was, let's see, get this right here. Panorama's 10 songs, 41 minutes. So pretty close, pretty close. I get the ticker. There we go. So it kicks off with a little intro to it. It was released in 2019, inspired by a drive that the vocalist took with his partner. And then it was the drive from like where they live to her home, I believe is how it played out. Wall of Sound, Wall of Sound gave it a 5 out of 5. The instrumental kickoff to it was Rose Quartz. And to me, it just kind of like set the tone. This is going to be a very relaxing album. And I would say it's relaxing. If I wanted to listen to something where I could just fall asleep, this listen to for this review was hard because I was so bored. I was just so bored. But if I play it in the background while I'm doing something, I can't pay attention to it because I can't hear the vocals. They just get lost in the mix. Fallen Street Part 1 comes in as a whisper, and then it like slowly crescendos to Will Ever Put Flowers on the Street. And it's a great story. I will never argue that they're amazing storytellers. Um, but it's like a statement of like, if I lost you, would I be able to pick up the pieces and move on? If I lost you, would I be able to go and put flowers at your grave or at where you passed? Or would I just be lost and kind of just crumble inside and not be able to move on? And then it turns into this question of, will I ever be enough? And how could I live without you? So it's a very pleasant song, if not depressing, but it's so hard to just focus on it unless you're laying there listening to it and following through the lyrics. What is up, Adrian? How you doing, buddy? Fulton Street 2, sequel to the first one, I guess. I don't know. Um, it's kind of it's it doesn't really take you any further. It doesn't really drive anything. They're described as a jazz, blues, spoken word influenced post-hardcore band. Their music is kind of shoegaze-ish. So if you're into the shoegaze kind of thing and you like the spoken word kind of thing, this is a good album for you. It's very spoken word feeling. Uh, Confessional diary entries, spoken and shouted lyrics is kind of their thing. When I saw them live, they were fun. They put on a cool show, but listening to them on this album in particular just doesn't do it for me. Rhodonite and Grief was the next track on the album. It's definitely more spoken, but you can't hear it very well. It's like he whispers, and they did not do justice to it in the mix. Winter versus, oh man, I have such terrible handwriting here. I will say Rhodonite and Grief did have uh, a really nice like trumpet touch to it. I love when they add trumpet to music, so that was cool. But that song, it's like it's about loss. Like you're keeping pictures, you're keeping memories, you're just like making sure not to let go of those memories. Anxiety Panorama, it's back to that low, quiet, mumbled, like garbled kind of sound. It finally kicks in and it's nice and solid. Are they worried they'll lose that urgency and emotion when talking? That was a note that I took there. Like, are they worried that when they're doing those nice, quiet parts, they're going to lose the fans? So when they bring it in, they have to like really make sure the urgency is there. In Northern Michigan, I just wrote Z's because I was trying so hard to keep focused on it and not get distracted. This is how bored I was. I was contemplating getting up and doing the dishes. I hate doing the dishes, but I just could not stay focused on it. So, like I said, I remember pre-ordering this based on how much I loved Wildlife, and I never want a band to just repeat the same thing and do the same thing over and over and over. But the way that La Dispute has gone from Wildlife to this, and the quieter with the vocals, the most spoken word, like it's just too much of a change for me. And most of the people that I know well that listen to them do not count this among the top albums from La Dispute. It's just boring. It's such a boring album. But it's still like storytelling wise, if you sit and listen to it and read it, the storytelling to it is still phenomenal. View from Our Bedroom Window, it feels louder, it feels more like the previous album, so that was like a really good one. That's probably my favorite song on that album. Footsteps at the dot 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 has more drive, it's more upbeat. There You Are, Hiding Place goes back to the mumbling, so it starts to really try to end on a high note and then takes you right back to the beginning. So at this point, when I was listening to it, I was ready just for it to be over. I was ready to be done with it. um I'm tired of listening to all of it. I think There You Are, Hiding Place might not be the last track now. Yeah, You Ascent, You Ascendant was the last track on it, and I was just like, I'm done. I was having such a hard time trying to hear him talk. Um, the song really, How Would We Go, How Will We Die? It's a great sentiment, but it would be more digestible. The whole album really would be more digestible and more easy for me to appreciate if it was like a poetry book or something. So that's those are the albums we did, right? Stand By Me soundtrack, Circle Takes the Square, and La Dispute. And those are my thoughts and feelings on it. All of them sounded good mix wise. I mean, okay, I take that back. Uh, Circle Takes the Square, Stand By Me both sounded good mix wise. The copy of the Waylon one I had was old. Uh, Which one, Chuck? I hope you're feeling better, buddy. The copy I have of the 45 was just old, so it was kind of scratchy. But this is the La Dispute one, and I don't think you really get the color very well through here, but it's like a purplish clear. With the different variants and the different colors and stuff they do nowadays, it's always interesting to see like what they'll come up with. Like I've seen some amazing pressings. Foxy Shazam just released one through Enjoy the Ride Records of their Flamingo Trigger album, and I don't remember what they called it, but the variant is one of a kind. No two will look the same, and it was beautiful. And I wish I would have bought it. I'm mad at myself for not buying it, but I had already pre-ordered a special edition of it earlier on that I've been waiting for. Okay, cool. Thanks, Chuck. And then this is, oh boy, circle takes a square, and again it's that kind of poopy brown, almost gold look to it. There's that. A lot of people say that the colored ones don't sound as good as the solid black, and that's fair. The 180 gram, it's a heavier record. It plays smoother. It's very true that the sound quality does suffer with color, but it's not that bad. I play on a Audio-Technica with, I don't remember what kind of speakers, to be honest with you, but they came highly recommended. I will say that. So I encourage you to check out each of these albums and argue with me if you feel I'm being too hard on La Dispute. Maybe you'll love it. And if you do, I love that. I love the thought of introducing you to something new. But here's the fun part. And I'm also going to say this too, while Chuck's here. The reason we have StreamYard is so we can go live with our movies and mayhem side of things. That's where we talk about horror movies. That's where we really jump in and discuss like which of these horror movies mean the most to us. Why do they mean the most to us? We watch one, we review it. The next one up is Dr. Giggles. We are getting together on the 14th to discuss that. So stop on by for that. It'll be streaming on For Horror's Sake's YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, and a third place that we kind of pick right before we go on. So stop on by. Let's go ahead and get the wheel of names selected here. We're going to do a screen share, our wheel of names. Boop, boop, boop. There it is. So there's our wheel of names. I have my list of vinyl. I'm going to throw them in here, and we're going to pick our next three. Our next three. It takes a second because it is a shit ton of records. I may have froze. I think I broke the world. Whoa. I think I'm back. If you're still here, if you're in the chat, please tell me. I overwhelmed the wheel of names. I think I'm back. And it took a shit on me. Chesley, I probably have. Knowing me, I have. Nothing comes to mind right now. With different variants, sometimes I will buy more than I need to just because of the art. Uh, but I try not to. I know with like Murder by Death, with Touche Amore, if they release like a really pretty design, then I'll be dumb enough to jump on board and get multiple copies. But wow. All right. So apparently the wheel is not going to be a good idea. So let me try something a little bit different. If somebody in the chat can just say, yes, I hear you. No, I can't. I would greatly appreciate that. Um, I'm trying to drop a ton of names and it worked last time, but right now it is. Um, I'm trying to drop a ton of names. All right. Chesley, Chuck, thank you so much. I was trying to drop way too many names, so we're gonna try it a little bit different here. How about we just do the pick a number, random number generator, and I will open this and that, and I will do this. It worked last time, so I don't know why it's being a little biatch today, but let's go entire screen, screen 2, share that shit. All right. So you'll see we have 501 albums here. So we have 501 to choose from. I'm going to go over to our random number generator between 1 and 500 because row 1 is our headers. And we'll do, I'm going to click it 3 times to clear things out. This is a different one I've never used before, so I really don't have to clear it out. And now we're going to do it 3 times to pick our numbers. So number 120, number 431, and number 76. Those will be our 3 albums. And then if I go back to here and look at our 45s, we have 2 through 66. So let's do 2 through 66. And 1, 2, 3. And then the one that I pick here is going to be the one that we listen to. So for our 45s, we have number 48. 45s, number 48. All right, so let's see what we got here. Number 120. Number 120 is going to be Alexis on Fire, Watch Out. That'll be a fun one. It's going to take me back to my high school days. Man, I remember the day I bought that album. That's insane to me. 130, wait, 431. 431. I feel like we're playing bingo. So 431, the West of Memphis soundtrack. So that's various artists. That'll be an interesting one. I know Johnny Depp sings on that one, but I can't remember what song. It's a cover. And 76. 76 is Connor Oberst of Bright Eyes. So that'll be interesting. And then for our 45s, we have number 48, which is right here. Yes. This is the Unrighteous Brothers. And that is Orville Peck and can't think of the other guy's name. And it is Unchained Melody and what's the other song on it? I think it's Paul Koth or something like that. You've Lost That Love and Feeling. Duh. I love that song. So when we come back, hopefully next Thursday or Friday, as Cujo coughs us on out of here, we're going to talk about. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. When we come back, we're going to talk about Alexis on Fire, Watch Out, the various artists from the West of Memphis soundtrack, and then Connor Oberst's Salutations, as well as this right here, the Unrighteous Brothers, Unchained Melody, You Lost That Love and Feeling. Go ahead and give those a listen, see if you love them, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Until next time, bye.